Hello Steve, hi, it's Steve Arts89. Well, I just did a little bit of a review of the Psycho novel. I didn't read it, I've only got 26 pages into the 126 page book, but I listened to the audio version. I believe it's the complete audio version, and what I've discovered was how similar it is to the screenplay in the film, and this myth that the book is totally different and just this pulpy little piece of trash, and Hitchcock just saved a few elements from it and made it into this great film, which really was a great screenplay by Joseph, I think, Stefano, but it was taken from a great novel. So I really think the novel doesn't get enough attention, enough credit, but I think the reason why this sort of myth has sort of maintained itself is because the second novel and the third novel, because Robert Bloch did 3 novels about Anthony Perkins' character of Norman Bates, which is how we think of him now, as Anthony Perkins and Norman Bates. But originally the character was a bit different. But the second novel is totally different from the film. They're not related at all. I think it's set in the mental institution. And the third film, third novelization, or novel, Psycho House is, again, very different, totally removed. I think they even killed the character. I haven't read it. But I think the reason why there's this myth that has maintained itself about the novel being so different from the movies is because people, I think, are looking at the novel series and how far it goes away from the original character and how different it is from the movies, which did sort of stick very much to the original film and the original story and that original sort of portrayal of Norman. I think that's why people think of it that way, because they've read all the novels and they're so different, and those are their last impressions, how far it went and how different it was, and they forget how similar the original novel is to the screenplay in the film. The main difference is Norman. He is a bit more aggressive, and the way he speaks about women, when you're in his head, it's a scarier place, and he doesn't have that sort of stunted child, naive, innocent sort of Norman Bates that we saw in the film as he was portrayed by Anthony Perkins. A lot younger, very much the mother and him were totally separate characters, whereas in the novelizations it feels like he's a monster made by his mother, who was a monster. So you do feel he's a victim on some level, but he's also a monster as well. So they were very different, and I just sort of wanted to point that out, and I found it interesting, and I meant to add it to the review of the book, but the first time I did the review it was like 7 or 8 minutes, and I tried to cut it down to 5 minutes, and I did, and realised afterwards I forgot to talk about why I mentioned that it was, people seem to look at the book as very, very different from the film, but I didn't sort of go into why I believe that has sort of maintained, this myth has sort of maintained itself, and that's because of, I think, the later novels and the people are reading them as a series, and that's their last sort of memory of it, is reading the totally different stories and then forgetting how similar the original is, partly because it is the same character going all the way through, and that is the main difference. But it's not as substantial in the first film as you would think. His interactions are very same as Norman. He acts innocent. You hear inside his head and you hear that he's very much like his mother, but yeah. So I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the novel, if you've read it. If you haven't read it, I'd read it or listen to it. But listen to the 2-part, 4-hour version. I think that's the best one.